creation. They rule over it. So the earth is given to mankind. It's given to us, who are to be representatives of God as we rule over the earth He has placed us in. Now, what does that look like practically, though? How do we be faithful image bearers of God by having dominion over His creation? And think specifically, how do we as a local church, members of a local church, how do we do that? Well, the text tells us very clearly here, okay? So if we look at verse 28, the first thing we notice is it says, by being fruitful and multiplying and filling the earth. Right? Seems pretty straightforward, right? Essentially, make more image bearers of God. Right? Have babies. And no wonder, then, that God has designed the human body of both males and females to be naturally driven towards that. Right? Anybody that denies that bringing children into the world is a natural thing that God has designed people to do is denying not only the Word of God, is denying the very function of their own bodies. Right? And I don't think I need to go into detail for both men and women about how your body tells you that babies are to be made from it. And so at this church, we are going to take family seriously. We're going to take raising up children for the Lord seriously. But here's the thing too. We also know that because of the entrance of sin, that the process of having children is made difficult for some, not even able. Or it's not in God's decree for some people's life. I would definitely say it's within God's prescribed will that people should seek to have children. But in God's foreordained decree, there are people in this world and in this life that will not have children. And so I want to be clear when we talk about this, that we're not saying that having children and getting married is the capstone of the human creation. Right? That's not the peak. Right? You don't get there and then you're now the most glorious saint. Right? Christ-likeness is our goal. Right? And we even need to think that a lot of us are singles. We need to think about that while we're singles. It's good for us to desire marriage. It's good for us to move towards that, to seek that. But we need to keep in mind that is not just going to make our lives complete, right? And that is not our goal. Our goal is Christ-likeness. And even when we get married, our goal is still Christ-likeness. That's one of the goals of marriage, right? Is to exemplify the gospel, to sharpen iron with iron in marriage between two sinners that now live together and raise a family together to the glory of God. Christ-likeness is still always the goal. And so even while, you are single or you're not able to have children, the mission of God for your life doesn't stop. You're not just disposable goods at that point. God still has a mission for your life. And there is more here that God calls us to, right? And it's under this larger idea in Genesis 1. Look at verse 28 again, of subduing the earth. So yes, we are to be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth, literally. But we're also called to subdue it. Well, what is that? What does it mean to subdue the earth? I think John MacArthur, gives one of the best definitions of this that I've seen, and it's this. He says, to subdue the earth is a productive reordering of the earth and its inhabitants to yield its riches and accomplish God's purposes. I'm going to say that one more time. A productive reordering of the earth and its inhabitants to yield its riches and accomplish God's purposes. Essentially, it's looking at God's world and understanding that it is meant to be utilized and cultivated and built with to the glory of God. Everything has a purpose, and God is the one that has designed it for that purpose. There is nothing in this created reality and universe that is meaningless, that is arbitrary, that God does not have an opinion about. And God doesn't have opinions anyway. He is. And the things that he make are, and they're to be what he has created them to be and for. And we as Christians should seek to understand what that is, even though we live in a fallen world.